You are listening to Invest in the Future by Future Africa. Future Africa is a platform connecting mission driven innovators and investors looking to turn Africa's most difficult challenges into global business opportunities. Please note that the content of this podcast is not to be regarded as investment advice. Hello and good evening, everyone. You're welcome to this episode of Invest in the Future. Invest in the Future is Future Africa's live fireside chat series where we learn from prolific investors and founders who have invested in and built some of the world and Africa's most impactful technology companies. Today, I have with us Nadayar Enegesi, who is the co-founder of Andela and now the co-founder of Eden Life. Hi, Nadayar. How's your day going?
Hi, Binger. Life is great. What can I say? I'm very happy to be here. This is the first podcast I'll be featuring on like this in this Q&A format. So I'm stoked to see the kinds of questions that come up and the kind of answers I can come up with.
They're very deep and philosophical, I can assure you.
That's gonna be fun then.
Yeah. So I want to get started talking about your career as a software engineer. At what point did you realize I want to be this science guy that codes? And I'm asking because I kind of did some background search and I saw that you have like some mathematics Olympiad stuff going on when you were in high school. So like, how did you go from there to decide I want to be, a software engineer?
Interesting turn of events, really. So after secondary school, I had the opportunity to move to Canada to further my studies. And right there in the pre-university program where I was at, everybody had to take a minimum of about 6 courses to be able to apply to university. And I think at that point in time, I was just completely done with the traditional idea of school. I didn't want to read anything. I didn't want to write any essays. So I just took all math courses. So of the 6 courses, you had to take English. That was mandatory. And then I took 3 math courses and I took 1 physics course, which is like just a lot of math too. And I had 1 more slot and I didn't want to put anything that would require me to read. So I asked around and they were like, yeah, there's this computer science course that you can take to complete the number. And it's a joke because the professor is just chill. I'm like, yes, that sounds like what I'm looking for. And I did that. And when it was time to start applying to universities, I realized that with all the courses I had taken, I could only get into a mathematics program. Shocker. And the University of Waterloo was really prestigious for engineering and computer science. Computer science was under the mathematics faculty, so I was like, yeah, this looks like the perfect place for me. So I applied there, and that's how I got into computer science. And while I was at the university, I got to meet a lot of interesting people who were actual coders. So for a long time, I felt like an imposter actually, because I was around people who were actually doing it for real, whereas I was just trying to escape studying. And I'm glad it worked out so well because I think through that I have built some invaluable life skills.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So you were done at Waterloo. Did you go on to work for a bit, or did you immediately leave Waterloo and then start? What was it at the time? I think it was Fora. That was the first startup you started with E.
Yeah. So it was really interesting because during my program at university, we had this thing called the cooperative program, the co-op program. It just meant that you alternated between school and work terms. So while in school for 1 term, we'd be applying for jobs to go practice what we were learning in school. And right after that was done, after building up some experience, my dream was to go work at a Google. And coincidentally, he had been asking me for some time to join, he and Ian, who is on this call, to join them in building out Fora. And at the time, I was more sheepish about it. I was like, I'm not sure about this startup thing. I don't really understand what you're doing. So, but I did recommend an intern to them, and I ended up spending more and more time with them and the intern. Ultimately, my plans to go work at Google fell through, and I just continued hanging out. I hung out with Ian so much, and we became really, really good friends. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I can continue doing this and just work every day with people that I like hanging out with. And that is how I joined the team at Fora and started this crazy journey with these folks.
That's absolutely awesome. Sounds like a very, very interesting story. Sounds very similar to how you stumbled upon computer science as well.
I swear, my life is just vibes, man. It's just vibes. The wind just blows, and I'm like, yeah, take it as it comes.
So I want us to talk about Andela a bit. I believe at the very early stages, you were responsible for training engineers, right? And if I remember at the time, Andela was basically a boot camp for newbie engineers. Not a lot of people who joined the boot camp had experience. So what was that like, designing that curriculum sort of from scratch? And what were the things you were able to lean on to support as a signal of support for you?
Very, very, very good question. So it is easy to take credit for the output that we had. I mean, by the time I officially stepped down from my role at Andela, we had been doing it for about 5 years. We had trained about 1,500 engineers. They were working for technology giants across the globe. And it's easy to take credit and be like, yeah, like the training was awesome. That's why they did this. But I cannot take that credit. The real secret sauce was the people that we recruited. So from day one, Andela was obsessed about making brilliance to meet opportunity. So we recruited people that were just super hungry, people who were super smart, people who, regardless of what program we threw at them, they were going to succeed anyway. So these were people who, they were just waiting for the perfect environment to really tap into their potential. And I think that was what we did. That was the main secret sauce. Now, that aside, as far as training them and building the curriculum went, as a software engineer, software engineering sounds like something that is so complicated. And when you hear coding or you see code, it looks like a different language. But really, at the foundation of it, it's just problem solving. I would break it down into composition and synthesis. You have a problem, you break it down into small finite pieces, and then you solve each one, and then you compose them together, and then you give the computers the instructions to follow the pattern of the solution that you have created, and the computer does exactly what you tell it to do. So we spent a lot of time just really teaching problem solving and having people solve problems every single day, have people work on projects, because at the end of the day, it's like, if you learn how to speak Greek today, but you did not have ideas to communicate, you won't be able to communicate. So in building the curriculum, we focused heavily on problem solving, and then we layered on the actual syntax of the programming languages and frameworks that we taught. And the biggest revelation in creating all of that was, even the best engineers need soft and professional skills to thrive. So we quickly realized that it wasn't just enough to teach people how to solve problems and how to code. We had to teach them how to work on equal footing with global teams. Because I mean, like we're talking about 2014 here when we started. Remote work wasn't all that popular. It wasn't all that trendy. We were one of the organizations that really pushed that frontier forward. And so we had to make sure that every Andelan was excellent at remote work. So we also invested heavily in soft skills as well.
Thank you so much. So my next question is, what kind of soft skills are important for engineering teams? Aside from communication, you can't say communication.
Yeah.
Obvious, right?
Communication is one of
But yes, you
it's
can
one of
share
these things
that.
that everybody throws communication around, but it doesn't really say anything. The word
Yeah, the
communication
soft skills that
doesn't
are important
communicate.
for engineering
Yeah.
teams.
So it is things like asking questions. So, something that simple yields outrageous results. Because as engineers, you must be curious, not just about the particular problem that we are solving, but every other thing that has to do with that problem. So we focus on things like asking questions, focus on things like holistic thinking, not just thinking about the one piece that you're working on, but the general context. And not just the general context in terms of the general code base, but the problem, the business problem that the company that the engineer is working with to solve. We focus on things like relationship building. It's very easy to build relationships in person. When you're remote, it's a completely different ball game. And in building relationships, one has to know how to build rapport. So when one gets on a virtual call, for the first time, how do you introduce yourself? How do you demonstrate curiosity about the person you're talking to and about their context? How do you give them visibility into your context as an engineer that's working from a place like Lagos or Nairobi or Kampala, places that the people that you're working with have never even heard of these places before. We also focus on attention to detail. It is something that it is mostly overlooked for engineers because I'm just gonna like solve this problem and write this code and I'm going to ship it. But when you ship that code, even on the repository where that code is stored, it needs to be documented in a way that any engineer on the team can come and read it and understand what is going on. So we focus a lot on attention to detail as well. We also, I can go on and on. There were about 20 skills that we covered. We covered empathy. We also covered active listening. A lot of people do not listen. As simple as listening is.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't just like pay attention to that. So yeah, there was a wide range of soft skills that we focused on, and we were not afraid to go granular. So that communication thing that you just said, there was nothing like communication on that list. It was all of these other things that make up communication that were there. So we were not afraid to go levels deeper to really define the day-to-day skills that we expected people to demonstrate.
Yeah, and this is not just important for engineers, it's important for other people in companies as well.
In life.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So at what point did you then realize that, okay, I've been at Andela for a couple of years, this is my measure of success, I've been successful at doing this thing? What was that number, or what was that signal for you? And like, okay, I want to go and try to do something else.
Okay, permit me to go personal here.
I told you the questions were philosophical on this call.
So I don't think there was ever any moment where I felt like, yeah, I've been successful here, let me go do something else. And Andela's mission is very, very, very big, and it will continue to go on. With the kind of population that we have in Africa, we have the youngest population globally. We're going to be the most populous continent by year 2050. And that demographic is just going to continue to grow. And I strongly believe that Africa's talent is going to power the world. And it is a belief that we shared at Andela as well. So even as at the time I exited Andela, we were barely just starting to scratch the surface of our potential. So there was at no point that I felt that, yeah, I had done something incredible and I personally felt successful. If anything, I felt super grateful to have been among such a group of smart, driven, and committed people. At the same time, I had lived in Lagos for about 5 years. And I don't know, there is this thing about approaching the age of 30 where, I've spoken to some friends about this. I do not have any data or research to back this up, but it seems like there's this thing of, there's this phenomenon about approaching 30 where people start to feel more awake. And that was happening to me. This was around 2018. I was just becoming more and more and more aware and just in tune with everything happening around. And so I would take an Uber to work or somewhere outside in Lagos. And I'll just look around and be like, wow, everything is so messed up right now. It was very difficult. It was very difficult to point to any particular thing that was working. And I knew these problems were there from day one, but for some reason, my mind just filtered them out. But from that year of 2018, it started to really weigh down on me. And I was like, okay, you know what? I took a one-way flight from Toronto to Lagos to build this incredible thing with my friends. And that train is moving, that train is running. If I'm going to dedicate the next decade or 2 decades of my life to still living here, am I going to be miserable? Am I going to keep seeing all of these things that make me feel miserable every day? And I was like, yeah, you know what? No, there has to be something that can be done about it. And I started having conversations with Prosper and Sim, who are my co-founders at Eden. We all worked at Andela together. And we started talking about this idea of, well, a lot of our friends are moving abroad. For some reason, we don't want to move abroad. For some reason, we want to stay here. And all of the signs that we're looking at point to us being foolish. And so if we're going to stay here and if we're going to be foolish like that, is there anything that we can do to change our situation? And I had multiple conversations with Ian about this, and we started doing a bunch of urban development research. We're like, you know what? Screw everything that exists. We're just going to build our own and build our own paradise and live there and enjoy our lives. Because I mean, we have great weather here. If you just add great infrastructure and great services on top of it, then all of us would be happy, right? Anyways, we got to the point where the biggest blocker to executing on that vision of building urban centers that were designed for quality of life, the biggest blocker was now capital. And I'm talking like to build a 6,000 person new city in the designs that we had put down was going to cost like $85 million. And we're like, yeah, no one is going to give us that money right now. We're not even urban. We're not even urban planners. We're software engineers and designers, 3 of us. And then we decided to take that whole Elon Musk approach where there's a moonshot idea that you have, but then like what sort of thing can you do today that is going to incrementally build momentum and get to that moonshot? So if we want to move towards completely clean energy, what is going to be our Tesla Roadster that would show people that it is trendy and it's cool to use clean energy? So the Tesla equivalent for us was this idea of domestic services. We deal with a lot of nonsense when we go outside, but if we come into our home, can we at least find peace in there? Can we trust what is going to happen in there? We rely on so many people to deliver services for us, for our life to keep going, because everybody in Lagos is busy and everything. But for some reason, most of the people that we rely on to do things for us in the home disappoint us. So we asked, is there something that we can do about that problem to start with? So we figured that if we could do that in the short term, we could collectively raise quality of life, and that helps us build momentum towards like eventually building urban settlements where people would have a great quality of life.
That's absolutely fantastic. So how would you, so we've now come to the Eden Life part of your story. So how would you describe Eden Life to people of the audience who don't know what Eden Life is?
Our aim is to make sure that people can get any domestic service that they want without any hassle. So in present day, Eden offers food, laundry, and cleaning on a recurring schedule. So we know that everybody eats, we know everybody needs their homes to be clean, we know that everybody needs to dress nice and clean clothes to go out. But we also know that it is not that valuable to spend your time cooking. Yeah, sure, like cooking is a great hobby and it's a great passion for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, like if you have other responsibilities, it might not be the best use of your time. If you can get great food for the same amount that you would spend cooking for yourself, you might as well like spend that monetary amount, but then save immensely on your time, which you can dedicate to more more things that would benefit your life and enrich your life. So when people sign up on Eden today, they can choose whichever services that they want. You can do all of it. I do all of it, of course. Food, laundry, and cleaning. And then our app automatically generates a schedule of services for the whole year. And then week over week, depending on the frequency of services that you choose, those services will just happen. So for example, on Monday morning, all my food for the week shows up at my door. And I just like stock my fridge. Whenever I'm hungry, I just like whip out a meal, throw it in the microwave, and I eat it. And the food is incredible and it's healthy. At the same time, my laundry bag gets picked up. 48 hours later, my laundry bag is returned in front of my door. Everything is washed, ironed, and folded. On Fridays, the cleaners show up to my home. They clean, they check their work after, and then they leave. They don't have to bother me. I do not have to communicate with them. And the reason why all of these things can happen automatically on a routine basis is because we have built a technology that drives that schedule and drives that accountability. And at the same time, every customer has a customer service person from Eden that is actually coordinating all of these services on their behalf. So now, instead of you being the one to call the laundry guy or be the one to go and order food from somewhere or do something, your customer service person from Eden, who we call your gardener, that person is the one executing all of these things for you and making sure that it happens. It happens on time, it happens on schedule, it happens with great quality. And really, like if you need anything extra, if you need or if you need us to pay attention to a particular purpose of yours, you just tell that person, and that person makes sure that it gets done.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. I use Eden as well, so I absolutely understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
So what was the reception like for Eden when you launched? What did people think about it? And how did you go about to acquire, say, the first 20 customers? Let's keep it at 20.
Wow. Okay, great. So the first 20 customers were all friends. So, you know, like usually you have any entrepreneur that has an idea will most likely discuss the idea with their friends, right? Because you expect your friends to support you. And usually your friends will tell you, yeah, the idea is great, it's awesome, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But we were just like, yeah, thanks for telling us our idea is great. We actually need to sign up and pay. Because like when you put your money in, you're gonna tell us the real. And thankfully we were able to get 20 friends, former colleagues, and a couple people that we just randomly met at restaurants and ice cream shops or coffee shops. They were like, yeah, this sounds like a decent idea. Let's sign up. And they did. And they gave us very, very good feedback that we iterated on. When we officially launched, the reception was interesting, is because it was just all over the place, because we were also struggling to really articulate what we were trying to do, and the idea is so new, right? So, for example, it is not common for people to pay for their food, their laundry, and their cleaning at once at the beginning of the month. Usually people are used to just paying for these things when they receive the service. And so one of the first barriers that we ran into was people saying, "Oh, it's so expensive." And we're like, "How?" They're like, "Well, I have to pay 44K to get lunch every day." And we're like, "Well, think about it. If you're going to get lunch every day in the month, 20 working days, 2,200 naira per meal, and the delivery is 0 naira." And they were like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It's actually cheaper than going to Black Bell and buying food every day." So eventually we learned how to position it and how to cross that gap of people thinking that it was expensive. The other interesting reception that we got from people was that, oh, if somebody's going to do everything for me, then I definitely want to use you guys. So we have people asking us for like interesting things. So people will say, yeah, come service my AC. Can you come do my plumbing? Last week someone asked us if we could help them move to a new house. And and we're like, yeah, like you definitely get the idea of what we're trying to do. Even if we cannot immediately meet this demand now, it is a sign that people are desperately looking for one channel that they can trust, that they can just delegate all of these things to, and they know that it will get done in a reliable, safe, quality-oriented way.
Yeah, yeah. Before I ask the next question, I just want to say that if you have any questions for Nad, you can please put them in the Q&A box. We'll take them towards the end of this call. So I want to know, especially because you're a home service and the touch point between you and your customers is very short, in the sense that if I order food weekly, for example, right, it comes on Monday, so it doesn't take too long before it comes. It's also very, very short. As soon as I request for it, pretty much I get it on the day that it's scheduled, right? What feedback systems do you have in place to take feedback, and then how do you now improve upon that feedback? Because I have personally seen this service, change and oscillate a lot over time, especially with the app that's launched now. How do you take that feedback, and then how do you now improve based on customer feedback?
Very, very, very important. Like at the end of the day, our customers are the reasons why we exist. And if we're going to, the only way that we are going to succeed is by continuously making them happier. Like even when we make them happy today, we have to make sure tomorrow they're happier than what we did today. And so we over-index on feedback. We primarily collect feedback through the app. So people will give feedback to the app after every service. We also noticed that for some people, that channel is not very effective. People like to talk to people. And one of the real value adds of having that gardener is, as that relationship gets built over time, customers share more and more and more with them. So they share feedback with the gardener about how the services went. And they also share feedback about desires and things that they would like more help with, or things that would make their lives easier. For example, we had somebody this week ask us if they were going to do like a home project, they're going to revamp their home and redesign everything. Can we project manage that? And we're like, sounds like a great idea. We can't do it for you today, but this is definitely something that we're going to consider. And suggestions like that go into our product roadmap, and we think about the best ways to execute on them. So our two primary modes of collecting feedback are through the app after service delivery and through the gardener. Our co-founders, myself, Tim, and Prosper, we also make a habit of calling customers. So we will look at the data because we collect a lot of data about how well people are retained, how people are moving from one service to adding other services. And when we find interesting patterns, we call the customers and we find out what is driving their behavior. And for things that we like to see, we'll figure out how we can make the process drive those behaviors more. For example, we learned that last month, half of the customers that we got were referred by someone. And our app doesn't have a referral function. Like you can't refer
That's
people
huge.
directly from the app. And so we're like, if word of mouth is really a strong channel, then how can we build that into our tech that enables people to do that more and more? So yeah, the gardeners, the app, and just randomly calling customers, talk to them.
That's absolutely awesome. And how does Eden approach growth now? So you talked about like talking to people for the very early stages. How do you approach growing beyond, because now there's definitely people on the app that you absolutely don't even know who they are, right? You might know their names, but not know who they are personally. So how do you grow beyond your own initial circle of influence?
So there is
I'm asking because there's a lot of founders. I know there's a lot of founders on this call. That's why I'm asking that question.
Okay, great. So the founders would appreciate this one. There's that funny thing that people say on Twitter that last not God they bring customers. But yeah, I thought that'd be funny. But in really we found that any month where our service is exceptional, we just get an inflow of customers. So we know that word of mouth is a big thing for us. Like I mentioned, half of our customers last month came from word of mouth. People also talk about us a lot on Twitter, which is nice. If you're a customer of Eden and you're listening right now and you talk about us on Twitter or Instagram, I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. Because it helps other people know. And what Eden is doing is we're operating, our currency is trust. So you kind of need to hear from other people to trust that you can give your home to a company like Eden to take care of it. But beyond that, we know that we have to invest in other means of growth. So we have started, because the other founders on the call, I would share what we did. There's a book that we all read. It's called Traction by Gabriel Weinberg. And the book has studied a lot of companies that have been successful and just talks about all of the channels that each of these companies use. There were about 19 growth channels that I mentioned in that book. What we have found to be working for us right now is advertising on Instagram, because our product is visual and it's tangible. So Instagram works really well for that to get app downloads. So people view our ads and then they download the app and then they sign up. And then when they sign up, they don't always pay immediately. And then we call them. So the first thing that we do at the top of the funnel is Instagram ads. The next thing that we do underneath that is sales call. So we call them and we find out why they're not paying. And it's for a bunch of different reasons. Sometimes it's like, we're not sure. Are you guys a scam, or are you for real? Everything is just pretty. We don't want to fall into any trap. And we're like, no. And we expect it. So having that human connection helps a lot. We find out about their specific needs. We find out about places that they got stuck in the sign up flow, and then we just handhold them and move them through the process. So that combination has been very effective. Driving the top of the funnel with ads and then following up with phone calls. Beyond that, we're now starting to invest in nurturing people who come into our funnel through email marketing. Because people need to consistently hear the story. They need to see what we're up to. We launched our app in February, and as of today, we have shipped 24 versions. So 24 updates to that app. So we ship very quickly, and it is information from these conversations that we have with customers that informs our product development. And then when we make those developments, we need to close the loop with our community through email marketing and tell them, this is what we have been up to. This is the next upgrade. So that has been working out for us so far. We believe that there's some other channels that might be effective for us that we get to try out. I'm not going to talk about them yet. But
for obvious reasons.
everything that we are going to do, everything that we're going to try, is really captured in that book, Traction. Anybody who is thinking about growth right now, that book is going to be very helpful for you.
Thank you. I posted the name and the author in the chat if anyone wants to go read that out. So I want to talk about founding Eden just for a little bit before we go to the Q&A section. And so how did you decide? So you said you spoke to people about the problems, right? How did you then decide, okay, Prosper and Salem are the people I want to work with to build this company? Right. You're pretty much all engineers. Like you have like the most unique founding team. Like everybody on the team is an engineer, right?
Yeah. It's a technical group of co-founders, and the driving thing was our collective discontent and hatred for the problem. Yeah, so we're just like, this problem is mad. We need to make sure it goes away, and we bonded a lot over that, and we're like, we're willing to stake the next decade of our lives to face this problem. That was a unifying thing across board, and also we had worked together before, and we really enjoy working together. Like we enjoy working together. We hold ourselves to high standards. For example, every 3 months we do 360 reviews and we give each other feedback, and we rate ourselves the lowest consistently on the team. So we know that we know that we can be candid with each other. We know that we're going to continue to push each other to grow. And so if we're going to build something that's going to be hard and massive, then these are the best people to work with, because we're operating on the same wavelength. In addition to Prosper and Sion, we have an incredible team of team leads as well. Benga Oshawe, who we also work with at Andela, leads our supply operations. And Benga is a beast as well. And Benga's whole mantra is, people will say, oh yeah, do am if it easy. But his own is, easy, but we go do am. So he's that kind of guy. He's ready to die on the line. Our food producer Fury also has that attitude and mindset. She has a lot of range in different things that she's done in her life. She's done soft skills facilitation. She's set up restaurants and food operations before. She's also worked as a VP of programs at She Leads Africa, and she's very passionate about food. And she's like, yes, we need to do something to level up like the general food culture here. And so she's that kind of person. Fuad, who leads our growth, was previously at Bikoko, and he's also that kind of person. Like, he looks at a problem and it's like, yeah, I'd rather die on the line than for this problem to remain unsolved. So there's that general attitude of looking at the problem and being frustrated every day that it exists is the thing that unifies us as a team, and that is what makes us strong as a team.
Thank you so much. That's awesome to learn. I feel like team dynamics are very important for people, and hiring is also important as well. And just to follow up from that, there's a conversation you and I had a few years ago. I don't know if you remember. I think this was 2019 or late 2018. And it was something about motivating people at the very early stage of a startup where you don't have a lot of capital to deploy. Can you share how you're able to do that? So you don't have a lot of money, but you need to hire like the best folks. How do you convince them to come on board?
Oh man, you make the Kool-Aid and have them drink it. But on a more serious note, when we think about what people really care about, I'm going to mention another book. It is by, what's the name of this book? It is by Daniel Pink, and it's on the theory of motivation. I think the book is called, one second. I can't find the name, but the author is Daniel Pink. If you just Google search Daniel Pink and the theory of motivation, you see that. The book is called Drive. Yeah, found it. The book is called Drive. And the framework that the book presents is that people are motivated by autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And where people see that there is a lot of purpose that is aligned with what they want to do with their lives, they are very much intrinsically motivated. If they now become convinced that if they continue to strive for that purpose, they're also going to build mastery. And eventually one day they're going to be regarded as masters in that field or in that problem or in that space. They're also more motivated because at the end of the day, mastery is a gateway to opportunity. People are always going to be looking for the best people at things, right? And then the last level is autonomy. At the end of the day, good people do not want to be micromanaged. Good people do not necessarily want to be told what to do. They already have a purpose. They are fully committed to it. They know what they have to do to get there. They are hugely motivated by becoming masters and becoming the best at what they do. So the next thing is just get out of their way. And I find that for our team, that was very, very helpful because everybody believes in the mission. Everybody is committed. Everybody wants to see this problem that we're solving actually be solved. And they know if we are the ones that are able to take the credit for increasing quality of life on the continent, there is no way that the people who are building it today are going to be regarded as ordinary people tomorrow. And on the last level, we do not micromanage everybody. Everybody knows what they have to do every day when they show up to work, and we just go and we just get it done. So if I were to leave anything with listeners on here, is that book Drive by Daniel Pink is huge on motivation theory. Outside of that, though, you cannot ignore that people have economic challenges. At the end of the day, like people still have to think about how they're going to be living day to day while on this mission, right? And I think this is where I feel privileged, because when we first started out, within our first 3 months of piloting this idea, our friends, family members, and former colleagues put in capital to fund our first year of operations, basically. And so I feel very fortunate for having that network of supporters that were able to help us, because of that belief and faith in us that they demonstrated. We were able to make sure that everybody that joined our team could get a living wage. So everybody, we didn't have any period where people were working without pay. And once we had that out of the way, it was now easy for people to focus on the autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and doing the work. So I would say for anyone who is looking to motivate a team and hire the best people at the early stage of a startup, the most critical thing is having like a big and clear mission that people can find themselves in, communicating how that person is going to grow through building that mission out, getting out of their way so they can do it. And then also, as the CEO of that company, figuring out how those people are going to be earning living wages so that they're not thinking about money while you guys are building.
That sounds great. And that's something I think everyone should take note of if you aren't taking note already. So we have a fun section. This is the first time we're having the fun. You're the first person who are experimenting this fun section on.
Nice.
So we have, I'll take 3 questions for you. The first question is, what 3 products can't you live without? And you can say Eden.
Oh man, that's my cheat code, man. 3 products I cannot live without. Like if these products left today.
Yeah, like if you were banned or something, you struggle.
Okay. I can list more than 3, Sha. So instinctively, I want to just say WhatsApp, because I communicate with a lot of people over WhatsApp. Outside of WhatsApp, Uber. I don't drive, so if I want to get from point A to point B, like Uber. I remember like when I first moved to Lagos, I was jumping the bus. And thankfully that same year in 2014, late 2014 was when Uber launched here, and it was godsend. And then for the third one that I cannot live without, people are gonna love this one. Kuda Bank.
You're about to turn the streets crazy.
In fact, I would mention Kuda Bank and Brass Banking.
Okay.
Yeah, because both on the personal side and on the corporate side, it's just like way more pleasant experience.
I think I agree with that, because I use Kuda Bank as well. So
yeah.
Okay, the next question is, what song energizes you?
Woo.
And it can be a song that you I can't give you caveats. No, it can't be your own song, because I know you have songs. It can't be your
song. So I listen to a lot of songs energizing, and I listen to a wide range. On the jazz side, anything.
An artist. Let's make it an artist.
Yeah. Okay, so on days where I'm feeling jazzy, I listen to Snarky Puppy. On days where I'm feeling funky, I listen to Frank Moody. On days where I'm feeling like angst, I listen to Linkin Park. On days where I'm feeling rebellious, I listen to Naira Marley.
That's definitely rebellious. That's definitely rebellious.
Yeah. And on days when I'm hanging with Ian, I listen to Drake.
Okay, then the final one is, what's the best advice you have received?
Wow. I may not be able to call call out a biggest one because man, I've just learned so much from what people have said, but I will attempt to share whatever comes to mind. Um, one of them is something that Jeremy Johnson, Andela's CEO, used to say is um, argue as though you were right and listen as though you were wrong. And that taught me a lot about just paying attention to other people's perspectives and also challenging them, because to make the best use of advice, we have to become very good at filtering what advice is useful and what advice is not useful. And at the same time, we also have to be able to put our egos aside when the advice is making sense or when the suggestion is making sense. So that's very helpful. Another one that I won't really say this was concrete advice that was given to me, but it's something that I've learned a lot from my friends, is just being present and enjoying whatever is happening. Like no matter how shitty the thing that is happening is, there's just something about being present and accepting it that makes it feel better, because our suffering is born from our desires for things to not be the way they are. So the more that you dream about things not being the way they are in the present moment, the more unhappy and satisfied you would be. And so even while building a startup that is as audacious as Eden, we have to enjoy every single day of it and just like appreciate where we are and appreciate the incremental progress that we make every day.
Yeah, like when the Okada, the delivery guys go on strike all of a sudden on a Monday morning.
Things like that. Yes.
Absolutely crazy. So now we'll go to questions from the audience. If you have a question, please just drop it in the Q&A box. Thank you for listening to that Invest in the Future episode. Please follow us on social media. Our handle is @AnAfricanFuture on all platforms. You can join Future Africa to co-invest in these innovators who are turning Africa's biggest challenges into global business opportunities by joining the Future Africa Collective, our exclusive community of co-investors. Please find more information and apply at future.africa/collective. Thank you for listening once again.